Well, mental health is a major issue among teens. It's estimated that 1 in 5 teens from ages 12 to 18 actually suffer from at least one mental health problem.
And the pandemic has actually made that number grow. One teen, though, is working to try to address mental health with his fellow teens. 16-year-old Zach Gottlieb created Talk with Zach on Instagram. He means it as an avenue to bring together teens. Zach, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me today.
So tell us about what was going on in your own life during the pandemic that got you to start thinking about this.
So early in the pandemic, my grandfather, who I was very close with, sadly passed away. And when that happened, I was obviously very upset about it. But the message I got was to hold my feelings inside and be strong and get through it. So I was really noticing that for boys especially, it was really difficult to talk about these things, whether it's grief or really just anything. And as the media was encouraging us to talk about our mental health during COVID, I noticed that we didn't really have the space to do so.
Yeah, so talk to me about some of the things that you've been able to do to make young men feel comfortable to come in and talk about some of those mental health issues.
Yeah, so I created Talk with Zach. It's an Instagram community with a worldwide Gen Z following, and what I do there is I have conversations with celebrities, experts, and other teens about the experiences we're going through, and it really focuses on opening up conversations not only to educate us, but also reduce stigma.
Is there any topic of conversation that has surprised you?
I'd say it's really, we talk about so many things, whether it's the relationships and academic stress to larger things like abortion, race, gender. I'd say one thing that surprises me a lot is when we're talking about the stigma, because when we actually start to talk about it, we realize that there's nothing wrong with opening up, and it's really interesting to hear how many people have experienced this universally. I didn't know if it was just in my community, but teens from all over the world are feeling the same way.
Yeah, do you feel like that stigma is beginning to change a little bit, where boys are feeling more comfortable talking about it? And how do you break through that, right?
Yeah, I feel like there is some change, especially emerging from the pandemic. I've noticed that a lot of people are starting to open up more, but we still have so much to go, so far to go. I've noticed that some of my friends have been opening up to me more, and I've definitely become more comfortable, but there's still a lot that we have to do.
But it's interesting because, teens are more connected than ever, and I guess one could argue communicating more than ever, right? They have more access to each other at all hours through snapping each other, but yet I wonder if the quality of what they're communicating or what they're sharing with each other is different. And I know, I think it's your mom has a little experience in this field as well. I guess, what do you think about what somebody is sharing via Snapchat when they're going nonstop versus what you would like to see them talking about and sharing?
Obviously, social media isn't as authentic as we'd hope for, but I feel like things like what I'm doing, where I'm creating positive change on social media, a place where there's a lot of comparison, there's a lot of people only showing the best parts of their lives. I feel like that's a good thing, but also, like you said, there's the communication aspect of something like Snapchat and sending that. You just have to really be careful on whether what you're doing is genuine, or because you can use social media for positives, to communicate, to learn about the world, to open up, to find people like you, but limit yourself when finding accounts that are just posting the best moments and not being authentic.
And a lot of these issues are very heavy, so I imagine that at what point do you bring in medical health professionals to sort of deal with some of the things that these kids are going through?
Yeah, there are definitely things that I can't really speak to personally. For example, if I'm talking about something like suicide or serious anxiety, so those more serious topics, I can't speak to that as a teen, but that's when I'll know I have to get an expert.
Yeah.
Okay. Good advice, Zach Gottlieb, for joining us today. We appreciate your time, and you can find him on Instagram by searching for Talk with Zach.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks so much.
Next in sports.